You ever look around and feel like the world isn't matching what you believe you deserve? You see people get what you want: success, peace, joy, and you wonder, why not me? You push, you try, you visualize, you affirm, but still something feels off. That misalignment, that gap, it's not proof of failure. It's proof of a projection. You are living the reflection of your internal world. And if that world is vibrating from fear, doubt, or past wounds, the mirror always calls it back. Think about it. Mirrors show backward. They don't lie, but they don't show everything either. They can't show the wound behind your eyes, the belief buried under your pain, or the frequency humming quietly in your cells. What shows up on the surface is what you're projecting, and most people get stuck cleaning the mirror rather than examining the projector. They scrub off judgments. They try to polish their habits. But if the projector inside is misaligned, the reflection will keep betraying the truth underneath. Here's the sensational, unsettling thing. The universe is as precise as a laser. It returns to you exactly what you emit. That's quantum mechanics meeting spiritual truth, not in some woo-woo way, but as mechanical as cause and effect. What you feel, what you believe, and what you tolerate deep inside, that sets the frequency, and that frequency becomes the lens through which your reality gets created. Every experience, every pattern, every relationship is your own design, or better put, your ongoing broadcast. You don't see lack because the world is broken. You see lack because your inner world is projecting it. You see rejection because you've rehearsed rejection inside your head. You see scarcity because you've whispered it under your breath. And every time you resist the reflection, every time you blame the mirror, you amplify the projection. You double down on the vibration that calls it in. But here's the cliffhanger. What if you could stop blaming the mirror and instead shift the projector? What if you could change the inner broadcast and watch the reflection morph? What if the version of you that you dream of seeing already exists behind the veil of what you're tolerating right now? Because this is the rub. Most people never dare to look behind the mirror. They never ask, who is watching? What and who am I projecting? They keep reacting to the reflection, trying to force the mirror to change, rather than stepping into the frequency that makes the mirror respond. They think their environment is the problem, but the problem is internal, and it means the solution is also internal. If you stay in the old broadcast, the fear, the self-doubt, the survival identity, the mirror will stay broken. You can fix your external circumstances 100 times, but if your projection stays the same, the reflection won't shift. It's like painting over the same stain. Beautiful job, but rot underneath. Here's the promise. Once you shift what's projecting, once your internal frequency harmonizes with the version of you who already holds the new reality, the reflection starts to catch up. Doors that were always there begin to open. People who once seemed closed off will show up in unexpected ways. Synchronicities, the invisible threads, begin weaving together your dream life like tapestry. Not because you fought for them, but because you aligned to be them. Now, the path isn't quick. It's not a snap of the fingers, but it's available. You can reboot your projection. You can recalibrate your vision. You can tune into the station of your highest self, the one that already embodies the reality you long for. And when you do, the mirror stops mocking and starts echoing beautifully, precisely. Are you ready to stop polishing the glass and start adjusting the projector? Because what you're about to discover in the chapters that follow is how the few who understand this code bypass the chase. They don't scramble for results. They calibrate their inner world. They project with intention. They become the reality, and the mirror stops lying. Stay with me, because what you project next could collapse your entire old reality and reveal dimensions you've been glimpsing only in flashes. Okay, now let's continue. Have you ever noticed how the very things you want to escape seem to follow you, no matter how hard you try to shake them off? The patterns you try to break, the emotions you suppress, the situations you swear you're done with, yet they show up again and again, just wearing a new face. It's frustrating. It feels like you're cursed or stuck. But you're not cursed. You're entangled. And the mirror hasn't changed because your frequency hasn't shifted. Here's the truth most people never hear. Your life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you focus on emotionally, and what you emotionally resist, you energetically feed. The field doesn't care whether you love it or hate it. It only responds to your dominant attention. This is the brutal, elegant logic of the quantum mirror. Whatever you emotionally charge, you energize into form. In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon known as the observer effect, the idea that simply observing something alters its state. But observation isn't just looking in the quantum field. Observation means emotional engagement. You're not just witnessing reality. You're charging it with the power of your presence, your emotion, your frequency. And every time you emotionally fixate on what you dislike, on lack, fear, loneliness, or rejection, you collapse more of it into your timeline. You're not being punished. You're being reflected. That's the entire principle. Reality isn't deciding what to show you. You are. And every time you say, I don't want this, but you say it with emotion, with energy, with pain, the universe hears one thing: send more. Because the field doesn't understand grammar. It understands vibration, and vibration doesn't lie. Now, here's the part that changes everything. The mirror is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to teach you. It's holding up your internal state, showing you what you're broadcasting, not to shame you, but to awaken you. To say, this is what you've been putting out. Is this still what you want? But most people don't get that far. They keep reacting to the reflection. They blame the mirror for what they see. They try to fix the outside while staying emotionally addicted to the inside. They leave one toxic job and end up in another. They end one relationship only to repeat the same wounds with someone new, because the face in the mirror changed, but the frequency behind it never did. So how do you break the loop? You stop feeding the reflection. You stop emotionally charging what you don't want. That doesn't mean pretending it doesn't hurt. It means stopping the energetic rehearsal of your pain. You shift the focus from reaction to projection. You begin to observe the old reality with neutrality, not with anger, not with fear, but with wisdom. You say, this is the echo of who I used to be, and I'm not feeding it anymore. And then you choose a new emotional signal, not from desperation, but from alignment. You begin focusing on what you do want, not as a fantasy, but as a felt reality. You shift your inner state. You tune your attention to what already matches your desired life: peace, beauty, wholeness, even in the tiniest details. A soft breeze, a kind message, a moment of clarity, and you let those micro mirrors amplify. At first, the big mirror won't budge. That's where most people quit. But if you persist, if you vibrate as if the new reflection has already appeared, you'll begin to notice the mirror ripple. Slight changes, new energies, different patterns. The matrix starts to reshape itself around your new identity. And this is when the test gets harder. Can you keep vibrating for the life that hasn't reflected yet? Can you trust your signal over your senses? Because until you do, the old reflection will keep trying to pull you back. It will say, see, nothing changed. But that's the old echo, not your new broadcast. This is how the top 1% of energetic creators live, not from reaction, but from emission. Not from fear, but from frequency. They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't argue with the mirror. They become the frequency that commands a new reflection, and then reality follows. So I'll ask you this: what have you been emotionally feeding that you're finally ready to starve? Because when you stop fighting the mirror and start becoming the source, you don't just shift the reflection, you shift the timeline. And in the next few minutes, we'll show you what that transformation really looks like, from the inside out. You stand in front of the mirror, frustrated. You frown. You fix your hair. You tilt your head. Try a different angle, but nothing changes. The expression staring back is still tired. The posture's still uncertain, and the moment feels familiar because you've done this before, maybe not with a physical mirror, but in life. Trying to rearrange reality like it's clay, trying to force people to understand, trying to control outcomes, trying to hustle your way into peace. And yet, no matter how much you rearrange the surface, something underneath stays the same. The truth is, you're trying to fix the reflection without shifting the source. You're wiping the mirror, but not changing the one who's looking into it. Let's pause here. Let this land. You don't change the reflection by touching the mirror. You change it by becoming someone new in front of it. That's not a metaphor. That's mechanics. That's quantum. Your reality isn't reacting to your efforts. It's reflecting your being. The mirror isn't broken. It's loyal. And it's trying to get your attention. Who are you being right now? Not what are you doing? Not what are you saying? Who are you energetically, emotionally, vibrationally being? If you keep showing up in the same energetic identity, even while setting goals, even while reciting affirmations, the mirror has no reason to change because it's not responding to your to-do list. It's responding to your state, your embodiment, your essence. That's where most manifestation teachings miss the mark. They say visualize or think positively, but they skip the inner shift. And so, people try to change their lives while staying energetically loyal to the self that created their current timeline. It's like trying to change the reflection while wearing the same mask. Different script, same actor. So here's the real work. You must become the version of you who naturally lives the life you want before the mirror confirms it. You must walk into that new frequency, not because the reflection tells you it's time, but because your soul does. And that's where it gets beautifully uncomfortable. You'll want to wait. You'll want to see proof. You'll want someone to tell you it's working. But here's the paradox. The reflection doesn't change first. The reflection follows. Always. The mirror is inert until you shift. The moment you start embodying the new identity, even in small, subtle ways, the mirror begins to catch up. Maybe not instantly, maybe not loudly, but inevitably. But what does it mean to embody a new identity? It means to feel like the version of you who already has what you desire, not because you're faking it, but because you've remembered that it's already available. It means aligning your emotions, your thoughts, and your nervous system with the timeline you're stepping into, even when your senses try to convince you otherwise. It's the art of vibrational loyalty to your next self. This isn't about pretending. It's about remembering, reconnecting with the part of you that already lives in that version of reality. The version that wakes up with purpose. The version that speaks with clarity. The version that walks into rooms and shifts energy. The version that doesn't ask for permission because they already are. So, how do you do that? You begin by shifting your questions. Instead of asking, how do I get what I want? Ask, how does the version of me who already has it feel when they wake up? Instead of asking, why isn't it working yet? Ask, what would I be thinking and doing if I knew it was already working? These questions bend your frequency. They start rewiring your identity. They break you out of the loop of chasing and into the flow of being. Because once you be, the reflection begins to change. Now you won't get immediate applause. You won't always feel certain. But if you stay inside the frequency of your next self, if you walk like them, talk like them, trust like them, the mirror can't help but realign. Because it was never about forcing change. It was about becoming it. In a few minutes, we'll explore why there's often a delay between identity shift and manifestation, the infamous gap, and how to move through it without losing your frequency. But for now, here's your invitation. Stop staring at the mirror, hoping it will smile. Start becoming the version of you who already is the light that you want to see reflected. Because once you stop performing for the reflection, you start collapsing a timeline that never needed proof. Only your permission. There's a moment that almost no one talks about. It's not the moment of awakening, not the moment of clarity, and not even the moment when everything starts flowing. It's the space between them. The in-between, the void, the strange, silent stretch after you've shifted your identity, but before reality reflects it. And this moment, this is where most people quit. They start off with excitement, they visualize, they affirm, they begin to align with the new self, and for a few days, maybe a few weeks, there's energy, there's movement, there's faith, but then silence. The mirror doesn't change fast enough. The old patterns echo louder. Doubt creeps in, and suddenly, they go back to their old frequency, not because it's better, but because it's familiar. This space between intention and reflection is what I call the quantum gap, and understanding it is everything. In quantum physics, there's a principle known as delayed choice. The idea that the outcome of a quantum event isn't decided until a later observation. Meaning, the event seems to hang in limbo, undefined until the observer collapses the reality. This is exactly what happens in manifestation. You shift internally. You begin to emit a new frequency, but the outer world, the mirror, hasn't received enough consistent signal to update yet. It's not ignoring you. It's buffering. It's recalibrating. And the more consistently you hold the new state, the clearer the reflection becomes. Think of a seed planted in the ground. You don't dig it up every day asking why it hasn't sprouted. You water it. You trust the process you can't see. You become someone who believes in what they planted. That is quantum patience. But for most people, the moment the reflection doesn't validate them, they panic. They shift back. They cancel the signal. They say it's not working. But that's not truth. That's testing. The field isn't saying no. It's asking, are you stable in this new frequency even before I show it to you? And this is where you rise. If you can hold the vibration when nothing has changed yet, you become magnetic. Not because you're pretending, but because you're anchored. You're no longer vibrating based on the reflection. You're vibrating from the source, and reality has no choice but to mirror that back, eventually, undeniably, faithfully. So, how do you survive the gap? You train your attention. You choose faith over evidence. You remind yourself that the field responds to frequency, not timeline. And you stop treating delays as denial. Because the truth is, in that space where nothing seems to be happening, everything is. Your cells are reconfiguring. Your neural pathways are rewiring. Your subconscious is recalibrating. Your external world is catching up. The mirror is getting ready to reflect the new you. But you must hold the signal long enough for it to arrive. And here's the twist. This space is not punishment. It's preparation. It's the sacred void where the old self dissolves and the new self roots. And if you can honor this space, not rush it, you'll emerge into a life you didn't force, but finally matched. So I want to invite you into something powerful right now, a moment of intentional alignment. Comment below, I'm loyal to my new frequency. Let those words be a signal to the field. Let it mark the moment you stopped needing external proof and started choosing internal coherence. Let this comment be more than interaction. Let it be transmission. Because you're not just a viewer of this content. You're a creator of what happens next. And when we come back in the next few minutes, we'll dive into the language of energy itself, how the universe decodes your attention, and how to start speaking fluently in the frequency of your desires. The universe is not listening to your words, it's responding to your signal. And that signal, your dominant frequency, is crafted by something deceptively simple: what you focus on and how you feel about it. Focus is not just mental, it's vibrational. Every moment you hold your attention on something, you're broadcasting a frequency into the field. Whether it's joy or fear, peace or frustration, that emotional charge gets encoded into your electromagnetic signal, and the field responds to that charge, not the words you say. That's why people get stuck. They say, I don't want to be alone. But vibrationally, they're pouring energy into the concept of loneliness. They say, I want abundance. But their dominant emotional focus is still on lack. And so, the field delivers more of what matches the underlying vibration, not the spoken desire. This is why affirmations sometimes don't work. You can say, I am wealthy, 100 times a day. But if your nervous system is screaming survival and your thoughts are cycling through fear, the frequency the field hears is not abundance, it's desperation. The field is not decoding your grammar, it's reading your coherence. And your reticular activating system, the filter in your brain that decides what to focus on, is constantly reinforcing what you emotionally rehearse. If you wake up each day thinking about what's missing, your RAS goes to work filtering in more evidence of lack. Not because it's cruel, but because that's the signal you've trained it to prioritize. It's not personal. It's mechanical. But the moment you start shifting your focus, not forcefully, but intentionally, you begin to retrain that system. You start reprogramming your filter. And that's when everything starts to bend. Let's get practical. Imagine you start focusing on moments of calm, small wins, evidence of alignment. At first, it feels forced, but soon, your RAS begins to cooperate. It starts highlighting things that match your new focus. You begin seeing synchronicities. You notice opportunities you used to miss, not because they weren't there before, but because you weren't tuned into them. You are blind to your own becoming. Here's the key. The field responds not to what you want, but to what you're being. And being is directed by focused, repeated attention. The more you feed a thought with emotional energy, the more solid it becomes in your field. Over time, it crystallizes into a pattern, and eventually into a result. So, the real question is, what patterns are you feeding? Are you rehearsing old scenarios in your mind? Are you holding imaginary arguments, defending yourself against situations that haven't even happened? Are